Intense fighting and regime strongholds under fire. Aleppo, the latest front in the conflict. It is the country's commercial powerhouse and serves as an economic lifeline to the al-Assad regime. Take a look at some video that just posted online. It appears to show rebels in Aleppo province mocking a statue of the president's late father, Hafez al-Assad, striking it with their shoes, a huge insult in Arab cultures. Damascus itself has been a battle zone. Chief correspondent for Britain's Channel 4, Alex Thompson, joins us now live. Tell us where you've been, because by the sounds of it, you've seen the worst face of this fight as it unfolds.
Very good evening. Yes, we saw something of the cynicism which has long been held to be the key facet of civil wars above all other kinds of war. And don't forget, the Red Cross a week ago said this is now officially a civil war. So we were offered the chance actually to film something which is quite rare in itself from the Syrian authorities. And we went to one of the main, in fact, the main military hospital. Now that's in one of the northern suburbs, which has seen serious fighting. And no sooner had we got there than fighting erupted all around the building in which we were in. We were standing waiting for some 53 funerals. That's just soldiers who've died in the last day. We were waiting for those funerals to happen, and then fighting broke out all around the building.
Let me ask you to just be clear about this, because we're looking at some of the video that you shot for your report, and it seems like soldiers are firing out from the hospital. They're using the hospital as their fortress.
It does appear that way, John. Yes, I think both sides will see this in different ways. Let's be absolutely clear. It is a clear, unambiguous breach of the Geneva Conventions to fire or attack a hospital, which is clearly marked as such, and this one is, in any way whatsoever. So it seems, at first sight, on the face of it, a clear breach. There were a number of incoming rounds, which I noticed, my camera noticed. Sadly, we're very versed in this kind of thing. We know what they sound like. There's no doubt that that building was being attacked and being fired into, but as you point out, on the roof, not one but two semi-permanent sandbagged machine gun nests, positions. Clearly they've been there for a long time. Now the Syrians could argue that that's purely a defensive measure because they expected the building to be attacked. Equally, the rebels would say, this was clearly being used as a command centre. It was clearly being used to give overview into the Al-Kaboun area nearby, which has a lot of rebel activity, and was in effect a military installation.
I don't want to sound naive, but this is a hospital after all. As you mentioned, even according to the most basic understanding of the laws of war, no one is supposed to be attacking it. No one is supposed to be attacking from it. How common is this in Syria today?
I have to report that not only in Syria today, but in Syria during the last months of this conflict, more than a year now, and today we hear from one Syrian human rights group, almost 20,000 people killed. I have to report that hospitals have routinely been attacked. Now, what I'm about to tell you is proven by video, which my program's obtained. It's also backed up by a number of global human rights organizations. Not only has the Syrian government, the Syrian regime here in Damascus, routinely targeted hospitals and field hospitals held by rebels, it has also on a number of occasions, and there's a lot of evidence to support this, actually used hospitals as places to conduct torture upon people as well. So there's a great dossier of evidence in the way that hospitals have been used. Equally and oppositely, only today some video has come out, and this is in Azaz, which is some 30 miles north of Aleppo, way up in the north of the country. A hospital completely deserted, completely trashed inside, and the rebels are saying very much that action, that destruction was caused wholly by government forces. We can't verify that, but I'm just trying to give you a sense in which hospitals, bizarrely in this conflict perhaps, have been used by both sides.
Well, let me ask you to use, I guess it was Tashreen Hospital as a barometer. It is a military hospital in the capital, and one would imagine if any hospital is well equipped, is well functioning, it would be that one. Did it give you any sense of how the regime is managing to support its fighters? Did it look like a hospital in good working order?
It's absolutely a hospital in good working order, and be in no doubt, it is an absolutely commanding position. It's on a hill, it's at least 15 stories high, commanding overview of the whole of the Al-Kaboun district, and really much of the northern sectors of the capital, you'd have to say. A commanding building in terms of its location, very well equipped, very much an up-to-date hospital facility. But the extraordinary thing is, when we asked, we were at the authorities here in Syria, at the ministry which looks after, in inverted commas, looks after foreign journalists, and they said to us, would you like to go and film a funeral? And we said, well, yes, that would be interesting. And they said, what day would you like? And we said, well, what day is possible? And they said, any day is possible. And now we know why. On an average day, there are anything up to 40, 50, 60 coffins coming out the back door of that hospital into funeral processions on any given morning, day in, day out. That gives you some idea of the attrition which is being wrought on government regime forces here, let alone on the rebel side.
Now, you've been very clear about this. We'll make the point again that you're operating as best you can under the restrictions of the Damascus regime. That having been said, you have had a chance to look around the city itself on your way to and from the hospital and on your other trips. What are you seeing of Damascus? What does the city look like now? What does it suggest about the way events are going there?
Apart from the fact that there's very few cars on the streets, it's just about dusk now, and the main highway would absolutely be choked with traffic. There's hardly anybody there. It's very quiet. Having said that, many of the bazaars are open. A lot of the offices are still functioning. The offices of state are very much still functioning. But what you've got in any of the restive areas and across the whole of the capital, you have roadblocks, and depending where they are, that will change from perhaps a couple of relaxed policemen through to other relaxed soldiers, not necessarily in any battle uniform, right through to tank emplacements, gun emplacements, machine guns behind sandbags, and soldiers in full battle dress, if you like, helmets, flat vests, and they can be very jumpy and extremely suspicious, and it's absolutely forbidden to film any of that kind of stuff at all. So the only way you can do it is to grab quick shots passing by in a car, but obviously there's a degree of risk in that kind of activity.
Now, while you're talking, we're looking at video. Your crew may well have shot it of a marketplace. I'm just curious. I mean, is it like Beirut or Sarajevo in the midst of their terrible civil wars? Are the markets full? Are people still going out to the parks and the movie theaters?
I wouldn't say they're going to the movie theatres, the cinemas perhaps. No, and the National Library looked very shut, as did the Opera House that we passed by yesterday, and indeed the university was exceptionally quiet, i.e. deserted. That said, this is not, in my opinion, anything like a Mogadishu. It is not anything like the siege of Sarajevo. It is not anything like, I would imagine, Beirut to have been. I'm mercifully too young to have remembered that, or to have been there. What you've got is a city which, apart from these key districts, being the north, the south, and right behind me to the east there, apart from those districts, it functions, but there's a lot of tension and it's quiet. But yeah, some bazaars are open. You can get more or less anything you want. But if you want petrol, gasoline as you'd say, you've got an awful long time to wait. Long, long queues, because fighting's cut the road between here and one of the main refineries.
Alex Thompson, Chief Correspondent of Britain's Channel 4 News, we cannot thank you enough